carefully computed how much he'd made in Geico compared to everything he had ever done in his previous life. And so you can argue that Ben Graham himself woke up once.
Why do you think that you, so early on, were willing to come up with this idea of paying up for great businesses?
Well, because it's so obvious, and I'm good at doing things that are obvious. Of course, it was obvious that if you wanted to have a particularly good result, you got to do a great company. You know, I recognized that greatness was good. You know, big deal. Charlie Munger, genius, recognizes greatness is good. Of course, greatness is good.
Paul Aini from Toronto, Canada, writes in and he says, when you're evaluating a company for potential investment, what do you play? I'll let somebody else do the math on that, figure out the timing. Matt McAllister writes in and says, Charlie, you've described too much diversification as diversification, being at best an average return producing strategy. In light of that thought, if one was allowed only one stock to hold for a very long time and it would be the most important asset to him and his family and their future well-being, please describe what you would look for in that stock or company, and also talk about the features that you would consider most important when you're trying to figure that out.
Well, it helps to have somebody that's lucked into a good position. So a great business would be what you'd like, and of course you'd like a great management too. And occasionally we've had both to ride together for a long, long period. But of course, everybody's looking for the same thing. And the trouble with it is you will find when you get into those good businesses, places picked over and analyzed as American stocks are. You can imagine the amount of time spent thinking about American stocks. And you will find, by and large in America, if it's really a great business, it's at least 25 times earnings and maybe 30 or 35 or something. So that makes it much harder, of course, because if something goes wrong, you can lose a lot of your investment. And of course, that's what makes investment so difficult, is the fact that the good businesses don't stay cheap. You got to somehow recognize a good business before it's recognizable as a good business. That's very hard to do. Some people get good at it, but not many. I don't think I would want 95% of the people who are America's professional asset managers, I wouldn't want working for me.
Really?
I think it's that hard. I think you need to be in the top 5% to have a reasonable chance. It's very difficult. Now, it's not difficult to just buy an index fund and sit on your ass. That's the great default position.
Your assets?
And by the way, that's if you look at the Daily Journal Corporation, we just put in a 401k plan. What are the investment options for the people at work? Zero. It's all index funds.
And if you
what percentage of American 401ks have our plan? Index funds required. About zero. Am I right or am I wrong? Well, of course I'm right. It's the logical thing to do.
Okay, so percent worth 2 and 20.
Sometimes. Being worth 2 and 20, I would say that is way less than 5%. The man who's worth 2 and 20, that's getting very rare indeed. Particularly under modern conditions where every niche is occupied. You really, if you take early stage venture capital like Sequoia does, how many people have a Sequoia-like record? I don't think there's one in 100 that has a Sequoia-type record.
Chris Freed from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, writes in and says, "You've said previously that
And by the way, even Sequoia makes an occasional mistake. Everybody does.
But overall, you still think it's worth it?"
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So Chris Freed writes in from Philadelphia and says, "You've said previously that you